What is up, everybody? Thank you so much for tuning into another episode of Rocket Vlogs, or if this is your first one, thanks for tuning in. My name is Braden Carlson, and we build and fly high-power rockets around these parts. Not only that, but we test the limits of JB Weld. If you're not familiar, in 2022, I built a rocket using only JB Weld and flew it right around to the speed of sound, Mach 1, and it flew 10,000 feet and we got it back. The fins broke off on landing, so there's some debate to be had there, but they did survive going Mach 1. So, in a crazy and hectic move, I decided to test it even further last year by quadrupling the power. We went from an I motor to a K motor and almost doubling the speed to around Mach 1.7 and turned it up just a little bit more because we glued the fins directly to the rocket motor case with JB Weld. Since we know that JB Weld can handle all of that, I've decided that it only makes sense to quadruple the power once again. Ladies and gentlemen, may I introduce to you an M motor. This is a Cesaroni M1675 pink rocket motor. It is loaded in an Aerotech case. It has an initial thrust spike of 450 pounds, and we're putting in a rocket that's going to weigh about 4 pounds all said and done. And yes, the entire thing will be built with JB Weld. Now, quadrupling the power from K to M is a pretty substantial jump. This is where speeds and altitudes start to get pretty hectic. This flight should be around 23,000 feet and a little over Mach 2.2. And you may or may not be familiar with how the last attempt at the JB Weld rocket ended, but the stakes are a lot higher. This motor case right here, the last two rockets I did the JB Weld thing with were single-use motors, so it didn't really matter if they got destroyed. This, however, is a reusable case that costs about $600. Moreover, there will be about another $400 worth of electronics on board the rocket, so not even counting the price of the rocket or any of the recovery gear or any of that, this going bad could cost me $1,000. We are putting it all on the line, and the good God of JB Weld is going to keep us just fine. I just have to do my part and get the recovery gear situated. Once again, my name is Braden Carlson. This is Rocket Vlogs. If you're new here, please press subscribe because it's about to get pretty crazy. Let's build ourselves a high-performance rocket, fly on an M motor, using JB Weld. To kick off the build of this rocket that myself and my Patreon supporters dubbed Third Charms the Try, I got out a piece of old roll wrap G10 fiberglass tube that I had. It was part of an old kit, so I cut this section of tube with fin slots off the back end with a diamond wheel on an angle grinder, and by some miracle, it was the perfect length for my 6400 case that my motor's going in. The motor is a Cesaroni M1675 pink, and I actually did a video on how you glue everything together. If you want to go check that out in the top right corner or in the description, you can. After that, I fired up my fancy new belt sander and squared the end of the tube with the disc. If you'll recall, in one of my more recent videos, my $20 Walmart belt sander died after almost a decade of use, and following the Adam Savage tool principle, I decided I definitely do need a belt sander, and it's okay to spend money on a pretty significant upgrade. After that, I drilled a big giant hole right in the middle of one of the fiberglass bulk plates that will be part of our electronics bay. The reason being that I plan to bolt the motor case directly to the bottom of my electronics bay to ensure it stays with the rocket. The bulk plate was a bit of a tight fit throughout the airframe tube, so I sanded the edges down a bit and bolted it to the top of my motor case and slid into the rocket. This is all for the purpose of just measuring where exactly the bulk plate will be and sizing everything up so I know how far into the rocket the coupler needs to go so I can test fit the coupler. I test fit the coupler by butting it against the bulk plate that's bolted to the top of the motor case and ensure the nose cone still happily fit over the exposed end of the coupler. It's a pretty simple setup, but it relies on all the recovery gear going solely in the nose cone, which we'll talk about later. After everything was sized up, I drilled 2 holes in both bulk plates for the electronics bay for our 1/4-20 all thread to hold it together. Then it's just a simple process of attaching the all thread securely to the bottom bulk plate with jam nuts and thread locker. After that, I put the whole assembly back together and slid the motor case in from the back as I'd need to do before flight to ensure that everything is aligned and just kind of fits and jives, and I can in fact get a bolt into the top of the motor case. It turns out that I can in fact get a bolt into the top of the motor case. That's a dub, so I marked where the coupler needs to go with a Sharpie and made it permanent. Ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together. Here is our first sighting of JB Weld in this build. Enjoy. Once the JB Weld was in and curing, holding both the coupler and our bottom bulk plate in, I checked and checked and checked again to make sure everything fit together alright, and it did, so I moved on to my fins. For the fins, I'm using 3/16 inch G10 fiberglass stock to cut a set of fins that are extremely simple yet effective. The root length is 2 times the airframe diameter, with the tip and span each being 1 time the body tube diameter, so it's 6 by 3 by 3 in this case. They look very similar to the fins from an Arcus sounding rocket, a real rocket, but my particular inspiration for this came from Kip DeGurtis and his rocket Mesos, which went 293,000 feet, and you can check out his awesome video in the description. There's a good chance if you're in the rocketry world, you've already seen it. I cut these fins out using, you guessed it, an angle grinder with a diamond wheel. After they were cut, I used the belt sander to square everything up and then proceeded to bevel the leading edges of the fins. No jig here, I eyeballed them all, and folks may use some words to describe that decision like stunning and brave, although most would probably use words like stupid and inconsistent. Your mileage may vary. Fortunately, it all went perfect on the very first try, and I definitely didn't have a whole pile of fins that I ruined and forced myself to cut new ones. That is awesome, let's move on. But first, cleaning time lapse. We need a clean surface because the next step is very important. It's bonding preparation. I'm using 120 grit sandpaper in as many directions as possible on both the airframe tube and the fins on every surface that will be bonded with JB Weld. Importantly, once the sanding is done, I wipe every piece with alcohol to ensure it's as clean as I can possibly get it in a suburbia garage setting. Now it's time for what we've all been waiting for. I whipped up a set of 3D printed fin guides and got to work tacking the fins to the airframe, and guess what, folks? I didn't use JB Weld for this, but hold on. Before you get up in arms, I should clarify that I used JB Quick, which felt like a fair play. I just wanted to do all 4 fins in the same evening. After allowing the fins to completely cure over the course of 24 hours, I once again meticulously prepped our bonding surfaces for my fillets with alcohol. Then, in a new step, after feverishly mixing a massive batch of JB Weld, I threw it in a vacuum chamber to degas the epoxy. Air bubbles in your fillets can cause weak points that drastically reduce your chances of success and drastically increases your chances of the epoxy failing. Keep in mind this rocket is supposed to go north of Mach 2, so I don't want to take any chances. That said, I'm sure I reintroduced some air into the fillets with my process of applying them, since in an ideal scenario you'd pour degassed epoxy out to prevent introducing any more air. JB Weld is kind of thick though, so I had to poke at it quite a bit with a big tongue depressor. Oh well, I tried. Let me know whether you think degassing still had a net positive effect in the comments. I made the fillets with a 1 3/4 inch piece of PVC pipe as my shaping tool, and they came out pretty dang swell, but if you know me, you know that pretty dang swell isn't up to standard with my fillets. So, of course, I sanded them and loaded them up with a coat of West Systems epoxy with 410 filler. This is not structural in the slightest, but it just serves to level out the low spots before paint. And you might be thinking, but Braden, won't paint just burn off the rocket if it goes Mach 2? Yes, indeed it will. Anyway, I used a piece of angle aluminum to measure out where my altimeter bay vent holes and shear pin holes go, drilled them out, and moved on to my charge wells. I made these 2 charge cannons out of copper pipe fittings from Home Depot. They're about 2 inches long and allow for gas expansion to completely burn all of my black powder charges when at high altitudes. Big thank you to all my friends that have flown high altitude stuff for giving me advice with these charges, because you may know how my last high altitude attempts have all gone. With those in place, I test fit all of the recovery gear and did a ground test with 1 gram of black powder, and look at that, it is more than enough. Now let's talk about the recovery setup like I referenced earlier. As you can see, there is 1 piece of shock cord in the nose cone and 2 parachutes. The drogue parachute is attached to the shock cord up closer to the nose cone, and my main parachute is attached directly to the eye bolt that is on top of my electronics bay, so it's not attached to the shock cord at all. Typically with this kind of setup you use a cable cutter, but I opted to use a Jolly Logic chute release, which is not exactly optimized for really fast high performance flights, but I thought we might as well give it a shot. I'll show you how I make the charges here in a bit, but for now it's time to paint to my heart's content. Painting rockets is a zen experience for me, and I wanted something over the top, so I painted it with this gnarly Rust-Oleum glitter paint, and it came out pretty awesome. To preserve RF transparency for my tracking system, I used non-metallic paint on the nose cone, which I of course set on a cardboard box thinking it was dry, and it wasn't, but instead of fixing it, I cut a band-aid shaped decal and put it over the top. While I was there, I cut a third Charms the Try decal for the side of the rocket, and good news, a bunch of people have asked if I can do custom decals for you, and now the answer is yes. Myself and Shane will be fielding all these orders. If you're interested in getting custom decal work done for a rocket, reach out to us at chsigndesign@gmail.com. I need to give a shout out to my friend Bryce Chanis here for designing me a 3D printable sled. On board, this rocket has two Perfect Flight Stratologger CFs and, new to me, a featherweight GPS transmitter. These ejection charges need to work at high altitudes where the air is extremely thin. So the first thing we're going to do is put our black powder charge in there and put the E-match so that it's sitting on top of the powder. This ensures that the black powder is burning downward and gives us the best chance of all the black powder burning instead of the initial black powder burn blowing black powder all over the place before it gets a chance to burn. To increase our chances even further, I'm using little balled up pieces of paper towel to allow room for expansion before it breaks our seal, and that seal is coming from GE Silicone 2, which I'm putting on a thick layer on top of there and allowing to cure overnight. These are very energetic charges, but they are very effective at making sure all of the black powder you're using for your ejection charge burns. With all of the rockets squared away, all of the paint done, and my electronics base situated, well, I think you know what time it is.
Intake reports and heads up. This one may be powerful probe.
It's a red nose cone, silver body.
Noise skies are clear. You're watching this in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
My blind followers hand them
19,300.
19,500. There's an event.
Silicone works.
Down 30 feet per second.
Okay, good news. Event. Parachute's out. Bad news. It's the big parachute. So we're still at just under 15,000 feet and approaching a mile out. Fortunately, the winds aloft seem pretty calm, so hopefully it doesn't get too far away. But so far, that looks like a successful flight. Hopefully everything's still attached to it. Main came out a little bit early. I did have the Jolly Logic chute release in there, which is a bold call for a minimum diameter M, but figured we'd give it a shot, right? All right, Mojave Desert hike. How you feeling, Pop Start?
Pretty good. It worked.
Yeah, we're already inside 3,000 or 4,000 feet from it. So to put the main out at apogee and only have to walk a mile is pretty good. Not mad at that. It's very good, honestly. So let's go see what's up. Oh yeah, good call. Got in a bit of a situation here. Dude, can you tell it went fast? That's crazy, look at that. Wow. That's so sick.
It actually held up pretty well.
Your motor case is there.
It is, yeah.
That's cool. Full charges fire, yep. Hell yeah, dude. That's a minimum diameter flight.
It is.
The red paint is just like melted all down the side of it. The sticker's gone. Oh, dude, all the clear came off. Feel the fins.
Oh, bad. Oh, that's
60 grit
sandpaper.
sandpaper. Oh, that's sick though. Let's see if we got any of it. Sometimes, I cut the heads off. People will have like melted shear pins like running down the side of the rocket. All right, I'm gonna pack this guy up. We should hydrate, and then we got about a mile walk back that way. Not too bad.
Yeah. For
main at apogee from 20,000, like I said, I'll take a mile any day.
Yeah.
But the Jolly Logic chute release, we'll reserve that for lower flights.
Yeah.
But yeah, everything's there. Featherweight tracker, awesome. Got locked back immediately after burnout and had it the whole way down. Took us right to it.
Good.
So there you go, GPS people. You know what I had on board too, though, just in case. Just in case. Yeah. Also, for anybody that doesn't like the twisting tape, I just pulled these up. You can see the wire shielding's melted. The tape's gone, but I push them in just far enough that only the twisted metal wires are hanging out. Still there. Mach 2. There you go.
Tape's gone.
Yeah. Just twist and twist. Honestly, that's what Taylor does. He doesn't even tape them.
Yeah.
But I don't vibe with that. I just had a piece of aluminum tape on there before it flew. But I'm gonna shut these off so I don't have to listen to that the whole way back. Oh, that's sick, dude. The red paint melted all over them.
Yeah.
Are they melted together? Yeah, they were.
Oh my god.
That's crazy. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that is it. The JB Weld series. Unless this video gets like 1 million views or something, that's probably where this train ends. We'll have to move on to something else. But yeah, this rocket did not quite go as high as I was hoping for. I was hoping to break 20,000 because I still haven't, but this is for sure my highest flight to date. GPS is saying 19,300 and change. It definitely would have gone a lot higher if I didn't decide to paint it. I wish there was a way that you guys could feel this, but I can only describe it as like 5 grit sandpaper. And obviously this happened during the motor burn, so all the time that it could have spent coasting when it was nice and smooth and aerodynamic without paint got taken away by the fact that there's several different layers of super, super rough paint on the outside. But I did paint it knowing that this would happen, and I just thought it would be pretty cool to get a first-hand look at what happens when a rocket goes Mach 2, see how hot it gets. My favorite part though is that all the melting red paint, we got like a nice little outline around the fillet right there. You can kind of, it's almost like a wind tunnel visualization of how the air goes around the fillets right there with the fin breaking it up. All the fins, the tips of them are down to the primer underneath all the glitter. It's pretty cool to look at, and the worst part is if I wanted to fly it again, which is definitely flyable again, is I would have to sand it all off. So almost part of me wants to be like, this is now a display piece or whatever, but all of me definitely wants to fly much, much higher. And some important things we learned from this flight is that I have, after taking some advice from friends about high altitude ejection charges, it seems that we do have that in the bag now. We also learned that maybe we'll not trust the Jolly Logic chute release with the high performance stuff, and we'll stick with the cable cutters from now on for flights like this. And this also served as a bit of a pathfinder for the N1000 rocket that is now flying at balls. And I plan to cut it down and basically do this exact same thing. Coupler gets glued in, motor case bolts in from the back, makes it all nice and simple, and all the recovery gear goes in the nose. That will be using cable cutters. So we learned a lot from this flight. Like I said, not quite 20,000 feet, but pretty dang close, and a successful recovery despite the main coming out at 20,000 feet almost. I got real dumb lucky. You can actually see in the GPS map that it was drifting away, and it made it to about 6,200 feet and came back towards us, landed under a mile after being in the air for like 10 minutes with the main chute out that high. Pretty crazy, but most importantly, what we learned from this video, ladies and gentlemen, the whole topic of this, JB Weld, man, these fins are on there. Mach 2.18 is what it simmed to, and looking at it, I don't think anybody's going to argue that it was going very, very fast. And no tip to tip, just JB Weld fillets and some nice sanding prep work, and here we are. So that's gonna do it. Like I said, unless this video gets like 1 million views or something, maybe we can go to a 4-inch rocket and see if JB Weld can handle getting near Mach 4. But that's up to you guys. You gotta share it to 1 million people if you want that to become a reality. But thank you guys so much for watching this video. My name is Braden Carlson. Especially a big thank you to my Patreon supporters and channel members whose names are scrolling across the screen right now. If you want to see some behind the scenes photos and videos and insight into projects I'm working on in the background, or see videos released in advance, Patreon people and channel members already saw this video long before you did. You can check it out. The link is in the description for Patreon. It's patreon.com/rocketvlogs, or you can click the join button below the video to join the channel membership. I also have merch available at rocketvlogs.com if you want to help support the channel and support the flight of our 200-pound, 16-foot tall rocket, 15-foot tall, it's somewhere in that range, this fall in Argonia, Kansas. But I'm just super stoked that this rocket that I built took it, everything's good, and the rocket is here. Lives another day, all the electronics were recovered, everything went really, really well, and you can't ask for much better than that. And on top of that, I got to fly one of my dream motors in my childhood redemption rocket, my black Nike Smoke with the K555. If you're not familiar with that story, you can check out that video in the top right corner right there where I built the thing. It finally got to fly. Overall, fantastic weekend. Nothing got destroyed. All the rockets came back. I didn't lose $1,000 worth of motor case and electronics. What else can you ask for? My name is Braden Carlson. You just watched a Rocket Vlogs video, and I'll see you guys next time.
Five, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Projection deployed. I see something coming down. Oh, there's the chute.
They're launching it in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
What motor was that? K455.
God, that motor rips, dude.
9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Broadcast covered.
Whoa!